Hello and welcome to the Fat Boss Guide to Grand Empress Shek'zeer, Twin-Man Heroic in the Heart of Fear.
Hello, and this encounter is pretty crazy.
Yes.
To put it in a nutshell, it's fucking crazy.
It's not too different from normal. It's pretty much how many healers do you have in your 10-man comp? How many can you squeeze in? It's a lot of healing going out. Everything does a shit ton of damage. But before we go into that, if you haven't seen the normal mode guide to this fight, then please do click up on the annotation on your screen now, and that will take you over to the normal mode guide, because we're not going to be covering everything that is in normal mode, because we're just going to be talking about the heroic changes. So go and check that out.
Now for this encounter, you want to bring 2 tanks, 3 healers if, like, your healers are incredibly well geared and you believe that they can pull crazy high HPS and you have enough raid cooldowns. Otherwise, bring 4.
Yeah.
You can bring 4. And then a mixed DPS makeup, it doesn't matter too much. But if you are going to go with 4 healers, then you will need half decent DPS.
Now we're going to go through the boss phase by phase, and first off we're going to be talking about phase 1.
Now in phase 1, the tanks still need to taunt on 3 to 4 stacks, or the Empress debuff like you would on normal mode. There's still random splash damage going out, so you need to make sure that you're spread 5 yards. And the dissonant fields still exist. However, this is the only change in Heroic in phase 1, is that one of them will become Shah corrupted.
Now basically after a short time of them being around, one of them will then have like a giant sort of evil Shah looking thing appear above it, and then it will go like a dark grey or black, and it will start shooting out random damage across loads and loads of players. And basically you need to kill and get rid of this one as soon as you possibly can, because it is doing that extra raid wide damage, just doing damage to random people.
Now the best way to deal with this is that the person that gets the Cryo Terror debuff should spend like a few seconds in one field and then a few seconds in the other field, just to keep them even. And then as soon as one becomes Shah corrupted, he needs to immediately move in that and just stay in that. And instead of leaving it at like 5% or 10% of its health, you want to use like a bop or some sort of immunity on that player that prevents them from taking the damage, because if you stand inside a distance field when it explodes, you take a shit ton more damage and it will kill you. However, bops and immunities will negate that damage, so you're using things like ice blocks work as well.
Yeah.
So stand in that, and once it explodes you want to use massive raid cooldowns, and really you want a raid cooldown for every single distance field that explodes. So you can either use like damage reductions or pure massive healing cooldowns like Tranquility or Healing Tide Totems or anything like that. And you need to organise that within your healers, who should use a cooldown on which one. And you will have a total of 4 dissonance fields per phase 1. So 4 healers, 4 cooldowns.
Now if you do have an arcane mage in your team, it is very, very good. After the Cryo Terror debuff is dropped and that person has left that Shah corrupted dissonance field, it's really good to get an arcane mage to go in there, because with his arcane missiles, every single one of those missiles counts towards a spell, and it makes it go down even quicker. So having people who do very, very quick spells, so like arcane mages and stuff like that, it makes it go down incredibly quickly, which is very, very good. And then of course they can ice block towards the end of it. So, but of course if you don't, then you can just put anyone in there. Just make sure you do come out so you can be healed. You don't really want to be below 50% health in there really, unless it's very towards the end. You can ice block for the end of it, and really that's the only difference in phase 1.
Once the boss does reach 0% energy, that's when phase 2 will start. And there is no real big difference in this phase, but the damage from these adds is absolutely ridiculous. You still will have 2 Reavers, 1 on each side, and you will have 6 Windblades, 3 on each side. Now, everyone should be stacked on 1 point. Everyone who's not a tank, that is, should be stacked on 1 location, so that the resin patches will spawn almost instantly as soon as 2 players are debuffed, and we'll talk about that bit more in a second. And as a DPS in this phase, all your damage should be on the Windblades. Now once the tanks actually have picked both of these adds up, like I say, you will take a ridiculous amount of damage. If your tanks are under geared, then there's no point bringing them. You won't be able to do this fight if your tanks have got poor gear or aren't very confident, because the amount of damage you take is retarded. Once you've initially picked up the adds, you want to start chaining your cooldowns as well as possible, and we recommend that you use your biggest cooldown first, such as a shield wall or anything like that. And once they have been picked up, you want to keep them in a set location. You don't want to move them around, it just makes it a pain in the ass for DPS.
Now one thing to note with the adds is that of course they can be stunned. However, you do not want to stun all the adds at once without letting your tanks know, because otherwise they'll all come out at the same time and just melee hit all at once, one hit in your tank.
Yeah, if you stun them and you don't sort of move them and stagger them around a bit, then their hit timer gets reset and they will all hit your tank at the exact same time, pretty much one shot in the tank.
Yeah.
So don't stun it unless you're going to warn your tank that you're going to stun it. You should also throw cooldowns at your tank, such as pain suppression, anything, just to reduce the amount of damage that they're taking. It's also important that you should keep the Reavers facing out of the raid, because they still do their shockwave. Now with everyone stacked up, as soon as one of the resin patches has turned into a trap, the raid should then move as one group to another location to start making another trap. And you don't want to kite the Reaver over the trap until the little ads, the wind blades, are on low HP or have already died. Because if you move them over straight away, then the wind blades will end up freeing the Reavers before they actually die or get low enough for you to just finish them off, which is bad. However, when the Reavers do actually get trapped, the wind blades will no longer do damage to your tank. So you should also keep that in mind. It's a bit of a balancing act because if they're not hitting your tank, then there's nothing to heal, more or less. So it's, yeah, you'll have to see and just play around with it a bit.
Also, you don't want to kill your wind blades off incredibly quickly, because otherwise you won't have any sticky resin to make those lovely amber traps that we all love and adore. So make sure you don't just nuke the hell out of them like straight away, then you don't get any patches. So make sure you do have 2 amber traps before you decide to kill off the wind blades. That's very, very important.
Now the wind lords will still fixate players, and if you are fixated, you need to really exaggerate how far you run away, because the ads do so much damage. They pretty much one-shot a healer or a DPS. So if you are fixated, just run the fuck away and wait until the fixate is ended. As soon as the fixate is ended, it will then just go back onto the tank.
Yeah, you want to be about 20 yards away from them, because they do have this horrible spear that does a shit ton of damage. What you can do is just run up the stairs of the encounter room, because you shouldn't be taking any damage from anything else. Just run up there, kite them up there, and then as soon as it's done, just run straight back. As long as you are 20 yards away from the wind blade that's chasing you, you shouldn't have any issue.
Now, as for the damage buff that's applied on the tanks that needs to be spread on the DPS, it's not that important, and really it should be the DPS that should be picking off the tank. If you are going to go pick it up, just do it in between the Reaver's shockwaves, make sure you don't get hit by that. But it's not that vital, you shouldn't really worry about it. Straight away at least, you should try and pick it up, but not straight away, it's not that important. Once a lot of the wind blades have died and you do have your Reavers trapped, like, this is the moment where your healers can just go AFK. You can relax, you can rub the sweat off your forehead, you can chill the fuck out, and most importantly, this is where you're going to get all your mana back. So you shouldn't worry about spending all your mana in Phase 2, because towards the end of it, just before Phase 1 starts again, that's when you can just chill the fuck out and literally just do whatever you want for around 15 to 20 seconds, maybe a little bit longer depending on how well you've done the traps. Now, over the course of the encounter, you should only have Phase 1 and Phase 2 twice. Although, I mean, you'd have Phase 1 again, but for a very short moment after the second Phase 2. If you do end up having a third Phase 2, you'll probably reach the Berserk.
Yeah.
So, yeah, you want to try and avoid getting that.
Now, it's very important when you are going to transition into Phase 3, of course you can only transition into Phase 3 from Phase 1, is that there are no dissonance fields up during this transition. Basically, if you go into Phase 3 with dissonance fields up, you are fucked. Because if they explode while the boss is doing all his calamity and all the visions of demise and all this random shit, as well as his new move, everyone's going to get pretty much one shot. So no, bad raid group.
It is possible, and in this footage it does happen, but, you know, it's not good. Try and make it so that doesn't happen. Yeah.
Otherwise, if it does happen, just try and get rid of the distance fields as soon as you possibly can and make sure they are staggered properly. And then, of course, healers, just do your thing and heal your tits off.
Now in Phase 3, the boss will still do Visions of Demise, which is the ability where he'll fear someone after 4 seconds of having the debuff. Those targets need to move out, you need to dispel them. He'll do constant AoE ticking damage on the raid, however it's far more than it was on normal mode. You just need a bitch heal. He'll still do his big ass frontal shockwave thing that fears you, just move out of it, easy mode. And there is one new ability called Heart of Fear, and this is like an orb that will spawn, like a glowy white orb thing.
White, evil, shark, corrupted orb of doom thing.
And this will create a beam between the orb itself and a player. It's like I suppose you could compare it to Exhaust on Imperial Vizier Zolok, it's that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Because you want your tank to stand in the beam so that the tank takes the damage instead of the player. And when this does happen, the tank really wants to pop a cooldown, even if it's just a small one, or even a health stone for that matter. Just anything to sort of help out, because it does do a moderate amount of damage. And apart from that, it's just rinse and repeat. Do the same shit you did on normal mode. Tank stand in the beam, GG, boss will die, if you can out-heal it. Yeah,
it's all about your healers. So thank you for watching, guys. If this guide did help you out, then please do give it a thumbs up. It helps us out quite a lot. And make sure to comment, rate and subscribe.
And if you'd like to see more 10-man heroic guides by FatBoss, please do click up on the annotations you see on your screen now. Thanks for watching.
Thank you all.